Are we there?
We're there.
All righty. Okay, my name's Ellis Jacobs. I will be chairing today's BZA meeting. I want to thank everybody for being here. Judy, would you call the roll?
I would. Jacobs,
Here.
Raska,
Here.
Salmonson.
Here.
Thank you. Also present are Planning and Zoning Administrator Denise Swinger and Village Solicitor Brianne Parcels.
All right. Well, good to see everybody. As I said, we got 2 hearings today. But before we do that, let's just take a look at this agenda and see if do we need to make any changes to the agenda, or is everybody comfortable with it? All right, I assume we're good with the agenda, and then take a look at the minutes from the last meeting. And does anybody have any edits or changes that they want to request? Hearing none, I may welcome.
I move we accept the minutes as written.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? That would be you, Tony.
Second.
All right, thank you.
No, I
All
made
in
the
favor?
motion.
I got it. Raska, Salmonson, and then Raska. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, they're accepted as written. All right, so we're ready to move on to our first variance request, and this involves 575 Wright Street. And I think do we have the property owners here today?
You do?
Yes.
They're the folks we don't recognize.
Mark and Andrea.
The people here in hot Texas today.
Pardon me?
I said the people here in hot Texas today.
Oh, yeah, it's, well, you're talking to people in rainy Ohio today.
Can't wait.
I would take that.
All right, we will want to hear from you guys in just a second, but the way we start out typically is hearing from our terrific zoning staff, and that would be Denise. Denise?
Well, thank you for that. So this property, if you may recall, it's at the corner of Suncrest and Wright Street. And for a number of years, it had a structure on it that was in disrepair, had a collapsed roof. Eventually, the property owner did demo it and put it up for sale. So the new owners now are wanting to put a house on there. And our zoning code has a requirement that if it's a corner lot, that it basically has 2 front yards. That's going to make it really difficult for them to be able to build this house if they have to have the setback of 20 feet on both the Suncrest and the Wright Street side. So what they are requesting is to have a variance on the Wright Street side. They will be 20 feet set. They'll be set back 20 feet on the Suncrest Drive side, which will also be where their driveway entrance will be. So that doesn't interfere with our zoning code requiring a 20-foot setback for driveways. Basically what they're asking for is a 5-foot variance. It's rather than being 20 feet back, they're going to be set back 15 feet. And that's
Gotcha.
it.
Okay. Do we have questions for Denise? Denise, my sole question would be, does the, other than that, does it meet all of the other zoning requirements, for instance, like maximum lot coverage requirements?
I haven't delved into it far, but yes, it does meet the lot coverage requirements. But
Okay, and remind me, what is that rule?
it is 40%. It's 35% in RA, and this is RB. It's right next to RA. Most of the properties on Wright Street are considered RA, but this particular lot is RB, so it has a 40% allowance.
Okay, and this particular plan satisfies that?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, Scott, thanks for joining us. Nice to see you.
Oh, yeah. How's it going?
All right, Judy, you got Scott?
Yes, I got you,
All right,
Scott.
any further questions for Denise? And then we'll give the applicants a chance to say something if they so choose. You don't have to. Nothing else for Denise. Do the applicants want to say anything?
Well, we just want to introduce ourselves, Mark and Andrea Paulos. We're actually from Fairborn, Ohio. We live there. We grew up there, went to the school there. We're familiar with your village and we love it. We saw a lot come up and we bought it. To get the house on there that we would like with a decent backyard for a couple of dogs,
Small dogs, just so you know, they're
Yeah.
very little Bichons.
we wanted to see if we could squeeze a little more square footage out of that. And when we talked to the architect and all that, and Denise, with basically that would require a variance. So that's really why we're here. We're getting ready to retire, sell in Texas. And we both have family in Ohio and spend a lot of time in Yellow Springs. So it's high on our list of desirable places.
So we hope this works out.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Any questions for the applicants? Okay, hearing none, then we have to open the public hearing and I will so do. And let's see if there are any members of the public that want to be heard. I don't see any. Do we see anybody? No? I see Megan Bachman, Luke Dennis. Oh, I think they might be here on the next one. All right. And hearing no members of the public, let me just ask, Denise, did we receive any letters or any other communications from members of the public on this one?
No.
No. Okay. All right. We'll close the public hearing. And if there's a motion to approve, let's see, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay. And do we have a second?
Second,
Okay. Now's the
Second, Tony.
opportunity for us to have a discussion amongst the members of the BZA, and then we'll go through our various criteria that Judy will ably lead us through. Any discussion from the BZA members? Scott, you good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, Tony?
I'm well, sir.
Okay, Matt, I just want to make sure everybody's good. All right, then we are ready for Judy to take us through the criteria. And just for Mark and Andrea to know, we have to talk about each one of these criteria, and then at the very end, we vote yay or nay on the actual proposal.
Okay.
All right, take it away, Judy.
All right, as usual, I will read the question. I will pause briefly. If anyone feels need for discussion or has questions, jump right in at that point. And I'm speaking just to BZA members at this point. All right, the first question for your consideration is whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. Raska,
Yes.
Osterholm,
Yes.
Salmonson,
Yes,
Jacobs.
Yes.
Thank you. Second question, whether the variance is substantial. Osterholm,
No.
thank you. Salmonson,
no,
Raska,
Nope.
Jacobs.
No.
Third question, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Salmonson,
no,
Osterholm,
No.
Raska,
No.
Jacobs.
No.
Number 4, whether the variance would adversely affect delivery of governmental services such as water distribution, sanitary sewer collection, electric distribution, stormwater collection, or refuse collection.
Let me just, before we do that, Denise, we're talking about effect on village services. I assume you've determined that it will not have any negative effect.
It will not. No, it actually had a house on there at one time before. So, I mean, there's this infrastructure's there.
Okay, you would have told us if there was a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Osterholm,
No.
Raska,
No.
Salmonson,
no,
Jacobs.
No.
Thank you. Next question, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. Your favorite? Salmonson,
yes,
Osterholm,
Yes.
Raska,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
6, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance. Raska,
No.
Osterholm,
No.
Salmonson,
yes,
Jacobs.
Yes.
Thank you. 7, whether the existing conditions from which a variance is being sought were self-created. Osterholm,
Yes.
Raska,
Yep. Yes.
Salmonson. Yeah, I got it. Salmonson,
yes,
Jacobs.
yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And 8, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Salmonson,
Yes,
Raska,
Yes.
Osterholm,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I believe the motion has been, we have a motion to approve and it's been seconded. So I think we're ready for a vote. Is that right, Judy?
All right, I will call the vote on the motion. Salmonson,
yes,
Osterholm,
Yes.
Raska.
Yes, in favor of approving the variance.
Thank you. Jacobs.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All righty. Well, Mark and Andrea, thank you for coming tonight and good luck with your project.
I just want to thank Denise so much for all your help. I really appreciate it. You've been great.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. We look forward to it.
Take care. All right. So we are ready for our second our second variance request. And this is the one related to 314 Dayton Street. And we're being asked to look at 2 different variances in the same application, if you will. So Denise, take it away.
Sure. So, this has been a while ago when this was approved by Planning Commission, but one of the things Planning Commission did say that's that they would have to come back for a variance to the height of the building as well as to the radio tower. The code for residential zones is 35 feet height maximum. This building, if this would have been considered a cultural building or a public building as it has been used before, we wouldn't be here tonight. The code, this particular use for WYSO radio doesn't fall under that criteria as a public building. So we are here. They have requested a variance of 7 feet 2 inches because the height of the addition at one point will reach 42 feet 2 inches, and that's a 7 foot 2 inch variance for the height requirement in any residential zone. The second one is for what we call transmission towers. I don't know when the code was written, if that was more specific to cell towers, I'm not sure, but the height allowance in the zoning code is 100 feet. The radio tower will need to be 150 feet. So that's a 50-foot variance. And just to put that into perspective, the radio tower that's currently over on Antioch's campus is 145 feet. And I honestly don't even notice it over there. I think I'll have to ask them. It might be behind the WYSO building. I'm not sure. Is it? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's the two variances. One is a 50-foot variance on the radio tower height, and the other is a 7-foot 2-inch variance on the addition height. And I believe Max is here if you have any questions for him.
First, let's start with you, Denise. Thanks, Denise. Any questions for Denise?
I have one.
Yes.
Why isn't this considered a public building of cultural and recreational?
Tony, your voice is breaking up in a funny way.
But I know what he's saying, and I'm going to throw that to Brianne because Brianne,
What's he saying?
he's saying,
Yeah, I couldn't hear him at all.
he's wanting to know why, Brianne, this isn't considered a public building for its
Because-
use with WYSO. I think that's.
Yeah,
the question.
because it is owned by a private enterprise, Iron Table Holdings, and WYSO is nonprofit, but it is a tenant. So it is not a building that is owned by a public entity, essentially. Even though it's public radio, it's not owned by, as it was initially built, it was a schoolhouse. It was owned by the school district. It's not like the John Bryan Center that's owned by the village. So it's owned by a private enterprise. It's leasing space to public radio.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brianne. Any other questions for Denise or Brianne, for that matter? Denise, I've got one. I noticed when the extension is built on going to the west, does it still leave the adequate side yard setback there?
Yes, it's 5. It can be. It's RC zoning, so it can be 5 feet from the side.
Okay. And I noticed that in the application, there's a comment about the fact that the red bordered lot is also owned by Iron Table, and I gather will be used for purposes dedicated to this building. But I noticed that there's also a separate house to the front bordering on Dayton Street. I'm wondering whether, have we heard from the owner of that house, or are there any issues related to the impact on that property?
I've not heard anything from the surrounding neighbors. I haven't received any emails or any letters. I don't know. Judy, have you?
I have not, but if this isn't too much of an overstep, Jenny Ruka was calling and trying to get into the meeting. I sent the link twice. It's not bounced back, but she's not. Is that by any chance where she lives? Because that's the only
I
thing
don't
got.
know who lives there these days.
Megan lives near there, so Megan, do you
Megan lives
know?
there?
Yeah, Megan's house is a couple of houses down.
Is that you, Megan?
Yes, yeah. His name is Mark,
Okay.
a single man.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
We've
Thank
not
you.
heard from Mark.
All right, great. Okay, any other questions before we get to Max? All right, over to you, Max. Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, if I would like to share a picture of the existing radio tower, just so people could kind of get a context of what it might look like in real life. Judy, if I could just share my screen, and I had to come out on my phone just because my connection here isn't great. If you could allow the one that says share screen, if I could share that. Okay.
There we go.
So you should, great. Yeah, you should be able to see a picture of the WISO building, and I just wanted to show folks this is more or less what it's going to look like. It's 150 feet, lightweight tower, and I'll let Luke speak a little bit to the importance of having this tower on site, just for the basic function of what they need to do. It's important for their ability to control their signal. They have to send a signal from somewhere, obviously, but it's the best for them if they could do it directly from the site. So I'm going to speak to the other variants for a moment, and then I'll pass it over to Luke to talk about the importance of the tower. So I'll share a image of the back side of the building. So you should be able to see a rendering of the back side. Looks like that's up on folks' screen. So you can see that the tower there is sort of tucked in between the two limestone walls. And so, those are there, the limestone walls are there to shield it at ground level, but also to provide lateral support if the engineers, they're aware that they can attach to it at the 15-foot height, although they're perfectly happy attaching it at the ground like they generally do, but that would offer an additional measure of safety. I'm showing you this view to point out where the other variance occurs, which is what we call the North Stair Tower. So that's the limestone tower that's directly between the brick original building and the low wood addition. And I just wanted to point out the reason that it's necessary for us to exceed the height here at that location. You could see that the North Stair Tower is adjacent to the existing brick building. And in order for it to make a secure and watertight connection to that building, we either have to be above the line of the eave or below the line of the eave. And so for this stair tower, the intent was to put it above the height of the eave. And the reasoning for that is to create an analog on this new building to the belfry. So we're really trying to include a couple design elements that harken to the original building, like the use of limestone itself, because the foundations of the original building are limestone and the lintels and headers are limestone. So this limestone material is really an homage to the materials used in the original building. And then to have a sort of a single tall structure that is identifiable and creates a strong vertical design element is another way of sort of reflecting the original building while being completely different at the same time. So that was the logic behind the placement and size of that tower. And I think it is important to the design to be in the proportion that it is. And so I'll turn it over to Luke if you have anything to add about the transmission tower.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Luke Dennis. I'm the general manager of WISO. We require a tower like this in order to be an FM broadcaster, right? Our signal emanates from Yellow Springs, and we currently have a 148-foot tower that sends our signal to a 450-foot tower in Bellbrook. And then from Bellbrook, that's where our signal reaches 14 counties. So it's called an STL tower, a studio transmission link. Every FM radio station has one, and they are safe. They don't emit radiation. They emit, less radiation than your cell phone does that you hold up to your head. They're rated for gale force winds. If a tornado came through and lifted our building, the tower might come down, but there are some safety features built into the tower. And that way they tend to accordion. They tend to fall down in chunks, and typically no more than 35% of the height will fall in any direction. So hopefully it would fall onto our property. I know that there are concerns about safety, right? So, as I say, rated for gale force winds, it's not going to go anywhere. There really is not an alternative scenario for us. It would be possible, I suppose, to lay a fiber network line that goes from Yellow Springs to our tower in Bellbrook, but that the expense would be exorbitant and it wouldn't be as reliable as having this STL tower that sends our signal to Bellbrook. So that's why we're pursuing this option. Ever since WISO has been in existence, there's been an STL tower on our site, and hopefully the neighbors who live over by the current station will tell you that they don't really notice the tower. It is tall when you look straight up at it. In fact, when we moved the tower from our former home at Sontag Fells there was a beer bottle stuck in the very top of it. So apparently Antioch College students were climbing it at one point. I don't think anyone's going to climb this one. But yeah, does that answer your question, Max? Like, this is a required piece of our broadcast technology. In order to serve the 14 county footprint that we serve, we need a 148-foot tower to send our signal to Bellbrook.
Thanks, Luke.
Thank you. Max, anything else in your part of the presentation?
No, I mean, and I'm happy to show more pictures or give you the full dog and pony show. I think most of you have seen the videos and sort of various images. I'm happy to show more if that's useful. I'm prepared to do that, but I think most of you all are familiar with the program here, so I'm happy to show more or answer any questions.
Gotcha. And thank you. Let's see, are there questions from board members for Max or Luke? I'll just ask both of you a question. This is primarily just out of interest. I've seen the pictures of the front of the property before, but I don't know that I've seen that rear view before. Is the one-story thing going to be where WISO will be located?
Yes, that's part of it. WISO occupies the entire ground floor and the lower level. So there's a lower level that's kind of 2/3 below grade. That's all WISO. That's in the original building. There's a very small basement in the new building, and then they'll be occupying the entire first floor. So yeah, that's WISO at the back there, and that.
And I'm trying to situate the tower on the lot. It's obviously on the western edge of the lot, not edge, but part of the lot. And where is it in the front to back, Dayton Street to the street behind it, sort of axis? In the middle?
Yeah, it's more like if you draw the center line between Union Street and Dayton Street, that goes right through the middle of the existing schoolhouse. Is there a site plan as part of that, Judy? There you go. Okay. So you see that red, the addition goes to the left of the existing schoolhouse. Let's see if I could annotate here. If I can annotate, I'll show you exactly where it is, which I think I can do here.
Do you want me to jump off, Max? Oh, you got it.
Oh no, I think I can draw on your screen, I think. Yeah, can you guys see that blue line I just drew?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is where the addition is. The addition, sort of the footprint, is about twice the size of the footprint of the existing building, right? So it aligns, like that's the addition more or less. So the tower is right here. So I'll draw a circle where the tower is. And so you can see it's much closer to Union Street than it is to Dayton Street. And it's situated so that it is adjacent to the empty lot. And so we're trying to kind of keep it as far away from occupied lots as we can.
Gotcha. Okay. And what is the plan for that empty lot?
That is part of the parking lot for the new building. So that is actually the dedicated parking for WISO employees. So the WISO employees will have several spaces that are behind a lift gate that are for their use only. And that happens over on that side.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks. I have no further questions. Anybody else have questions for either of them? Okay, seeing nobody trying to get any questions in, let's open the public part of the public hearing. And is there anybody here that wants to speak on this topic? Megan.
Thank you, Ellis. My name's Megan Bachman. I live at 330 Dayton Street. So if you're looking at the building, it's two houses to the left. Can see it from my backyard and a couple of bedrooms. And like many of my neighbors and fellow community members, we are so excited for this moving forward and excited to see progress happening on the property. Also have been appreciative of efforts to keep as many trees as possible, specifically to my neighbor Mark's along a big part along his property line towards the front of the property has remained. So would love to see that continue. I do have some questions about later about that. Specifically about the variance, I have previously raised just questions about the tower, the limestone tower. I can understand that there's an aesthetic architectural reason for it that is potentially beyond my understanding. But considering that this addition really is kind of crammed into a very small area in RC, which is the most dense area that you can get in the village. So 5 feet, there's going to be a pretty substantial height going up. Just wondering if there are other reasons behind it or if it is just aesthetic for that tower, and wondering if there's other approaches. One similar project that was coming to mind was the Mills Park Hotel, which also had a height variance for being, that was 3 stories, new stories, not these old stories, which are quite larger. But as you can kind of tell, you know, when you're right next to that building, the height is pretty significant. As you get further away from it, it gets less so. So just visually in the context of a neighborhood with much smaller houses, the house next door, I think, is 1.5 stories. Just looking visually daunting. So that's just my comment related to that. The second question is just related to the tower. I'm glad to know the exact location of the tower, and curious if the tree line, there's a pretty significant tree line right behind my neighbor's property. That would be on the south side of the secondary parcel that provides visual screening for the neighbors. I'm just wondering if that tree line also is one that will stay or will go like some of the other trees along the western edge. So those are just my comments and questions, and thank you.
So, but Max and Luke, I want to give the both of you an opportunity to respond if you'd like. But first, let's see if there's any other members of the public that are here that have comments or questions that they'd like to ask. Not seeing. Okay, Max
Ellis,
or Luke?
I do have one question. Will
Sure.
this tower be required to be lighted for FAA?
Okay, another good question. Max, Luke? Did you hear the question, Luke, about the lighting of the tower?
The current ones.
Yeah. What I can say is we'll conform to whatever the FAA requirement is. I don't have the answer to that, unfortunately, Brienne, but I can certainly find out, and I can commit to conforming to whatever the rule is. So if it's required to have a light, it certainly will.
The current one is not. Yeah, right. The current tower does not have a light at the top. But
it has a beer can.
No, we took the beer can out. It's in my office. Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to do some research into that, whether or not it needs to be lighted. You mean like a flashing red light or something?
Yeah,
for
flashing red for air traffic.
low flying aircraft, yeah.
Gotcha.
But
Hopefully.
considering the proximity of the Air Guard base just north of town.
I just hope no one's flying that low, but yeah, we will investigate that.
Okay.
Okay, so now back to Megan had a couple of questions and a couple of points. If either of you would like to address them, you're more than welcome.
Sure, I'll talk about the sort of the need for the height on the stair tower. There's that stair tower also correlates to an elevator, which requires a little bit of extra head height. So that, we'd have to accommodate the elevator in a different location without the height that we have. And in terms of it being in a residential neighborhood, I think we really did our best to address the proximity to neighbors, particularly by building, that long limestone wall on the west side of the property was really sort of trying to create a barrier between that part of the property and our neighbor. And not only that, but we stepped the height down towards the west so that the scale of the building comes down, sort of be more in a residential scale to the west side. So if you notice that's where the property sort of steps down, or the building steps down and becomes smaller. So we feel comfortable with it, how it's situated. And, I don't know if we could accomplish what we're trying to accomplish in staying in a much smaller scale, honestly. So I think I think the scale and height, of course, I think they're appropriate. We've considered them pretty carefully. In terms of the tree line on the south side of the smaller lot, we are preserving the mature trees along that line. I think it's pretty obvious which trees are being removed at this point, because we've marked those trees for removal that are being removed. But we've met with a neighbor, and we've worked with the landscape designer and the civil engineer in terms of the parking lot line to preserve as many mature trees on site as we can.
Thank you. Megan, do you have any follow-up questions? Megan, did you want to follow on or respond to the answers?
I think you may have called on me. My internet went out briefly.
Oh, I did call on you. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you hear Max's response? And if you did, do you have any follow-up questions or comments that you'd like to make?
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering if there were other options considered for the elevator that wouldn't require such a large addition.
The evolution of the design went through a lot of different iterations. So there was lots of different sort of possibilities that were explored. But to my main point is that, we're building what is in effect a public building, a large scale building. It's not a residential scale building. So I think there's a lot of ways to do that. There's an infinite number of ways to solve the design problem. But in order to create a solution on this site, there will need to be taller elements to accommodate the amount of square footage that we need. So the effort was to compose them in a harmonious way so that there are taller elements and lower elements, and to create some variation within the building. There's an infinite number of ways to solve any design problem. The hope is to find a solution that is an elegant answer to all the design problems. And so I think that there would be other ways to solve the problems, but they would also result in certain taller elements and certain shorter elements. So I think we're satisfied with the design that's been presented.
I think it's also important to note that they were designing that under some restrictions that were actually put on the property by a previous council. And so there aren't allowed to be any structures in the front. So they're keeping that entire half of the property is not going to have any structures on it. And they kept pretty much the addition is all being built on the other half of if you divided that property down the center. And also, as Max pointed out, that tower is inset back quite a bit. It's not, that tower does not go against that 5-foot setback. It does scale down, and they have that limestone wall. I'm not sure how tall that wall is. Maybe Max, you can say how tall that wall is, but it is a gradual step down from the height of that tower. And even that height of the tower doesn't even come near the height of the existing bell tower that's there. So I think it'll be pretty, I think it's pretty much all in scale, and hopefully won't be too daunting. The fact that they did take into consideration that there was a neighbor on Dayton Street.
Yeah, I think the thought that sort of the how I like to talk about it from a design perspective is it's this analog to the bell tower, and it's deferential to the bell tower in terms of its scale and size. Like the bell tower remains sort of the most important architectural feature of the two buildings, but that the addition has this sort of analogous piece of architecture that that sort of speaks to that scale.
Okay, thank you. Megan, before we move on, I want to give you one final opportunity to make any concluding comments or statements that you'd like to make.
I have no other comments or statements.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. All right, any other members of the public that want to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And let's see if we have a motion to accept the variance.
Motion to accept the variance.
Hold up, whoa.
Yep, thank you, Judy. You're going to set me straight. Go ahead.
Two variances, so if you could take them one at a time, and in the way that Denise has laid it out, since I already wrote half my notes, that'd be awesome if you just went in the order of Denise's stuff here, which starts with the tower variance. Am I correct, Denise? Yes.
Okay, all right. Do we have a motion to accept the variance allowing the tower to be 150 feet rather than 100?
Motion to accept the tower variance.
All right,
So
is there a
and
second?
The
I
niggly
second
little
it.
thing, but if you could move to approve the variance.
Motion to approve the variance, thank you. And
Variance,
I think Scott got the second there.
tower. And so this is a variance of 50 feet. Am I correct, Denise? Yes.
That's right, yes.
Okay.
Can I-
thank you.
Yes, sorry. Gonna mute.
So that was Matt, and did we get a second?
Yes.
That was
this is
Scott,
I
yes.
seconded.
Thank you.
All right, okay, any discussion among the board members on this particular variance?
Oh, nah.
All right, you ready for the Duncan factors?
We are, we got to go
All right.
through these factors and we vote on it, or we express our thoughts on them one by one, and at the very end, we vote whether to accept or reject the variance. Go
All
ahead,
right.
Judy.
So same as ever. I'll give you a short pause and then call the roll. First question is whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. Osterholm,
No.
Salmonson,
No.
Raska,
Hey, Matt, you're up.
Raska,
Unmuted, yes.
thank you. Jacobs.
Yes.
Second question, whether the variance is substantial. Salmonson,
No.
Raska,
Yes.
Osterholm,
No.
Jacobs.
No.
Third question, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Osterholm,
No.
Salmonson,
Well, substantial is the key word. I'll have to say no.
okay. Raska,
I'm gonna go with no, as long as the FAA rules, which seem to state no light is required for a tower under 200 feet, as long as there's no light now. So I'm gonna go with no.
Okay, Jacobs?
No.
4, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services such as water distribution, sanitary sewer collection, electric distribution, stormwater collection, or refuse collection.
So again, let me just ask Denise, what have you determined on that one?
Johnny's been out there multiple times and has met with the designers and construction people. Everything's good.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Salmonson.
Oh, you caught me off guard with the variance. No.
Raska.
No.
Okay, Osterholm,
No.
Jacobs.
No.
Whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. Raska,
Yes.
Salmonson,
Yes.
Osterholm,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
6, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance. Osterholm,
No.
Raska,
Nope.
Salmonson,
Yes.
Jacobs.
No.
7, whether the existing conditions from which a variance is being sought were self-created. Salmonson,
Yes.
Raska,
Nah.
was that a nah?
No.
Okay, thank you. Osterholm,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
All right, number 8, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Salmonson,
Yes.
Osterholm,
Yes.
Raska,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
All right,
All right, having gone through all the factors, I think we're ready for a vote on the variance request.
all right. Salmonson,
Approved.
Raska,
Yes, in favor of the variance.
Osterholm,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
Thank you,
All
Ken.
right. Okay, now we're ready for a motion to approve the second of the 2 variance requests. This one is for the variation of the height of the building by, how many feet is it?
7 feet, 2 inches.
There you go, 7 feet, 2 inches.
Motion to approve the variance of the height of the building by 7 feet and 2 inches.
Okay, is there a second?
I second it.
Alrighty, okay, Judy, we're ready for you to work your magic.
All right, we're dunking away. Here we go. Whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. Raska,
Yes.
Salmonson,
Yes.
Osterholm,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
2, whether the variance is substantial. Osterholm,
No.
Salmonson,
No.
Raska,
No.
Jacobs.
No.
3, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Salmonson,
Again, substantial. I have to say no.
okay. Raska,
No. No.
Osterholm,
No.
Jacobs.
Nope.
4, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services such as water distribution, sanitary sewer collection, electric distribution, stormwater collection, or refuse collection. Raska,
No.
Salmonson,
No.
Osterholm,
No.
Jacobs.
No.
Thank you. Whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. Salmonson,
Yes.
Osterholm,
Yes.
Raska,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Thank you. Whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance. Raska,
No.
Osterholm,
No.
Salmonson,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
All right. 7, whether the existing conditions from which a variance is being sought were self-created. Osterholm,
Yes.
Salmonson,
Yes.
Raska,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
And 8, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Raska,
Yes.
Salmonson,
Yes.
Osterholm,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, there's a motion to grant this variance on the table. I think we're ready for a roll call on that.
All right. Raska.
Yes, in favor of the variance.
All right. Salmonson,
I have a question for Brianne. I just thought of,
okay. go
if
ahead.
I have given money to YSO, can I still vote?
If you are a member of YSO,
Tony, I think if they'd given money to you, you
I'm
could
not a
vote,
member.
but it's a public radio station
I
that
can't hear you,
solicits
Judy. I don't
donations
know
from
why.
I don't think we have anyone
the
able to vote on
public.
this.
yeah. So is the question whether they're WYSO you've contributed to WYSO?
In the past, yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
It's a public radio. It's a public radio station. I mean, that's how they do their business. Now, if you were like a sustaining
An
member,
employee.
then I mean this application is for WYSO as a tenant. Iron Table Holdings is the property owner. So in terms of whether there's an ethical conflict of interest, again, that membership is spread out over a very broad group. You don't have like a personal ownership stake in the public radio station.
I vote to approve with that explanation.
Thank you. Osterholm, did I already call you? I'm sorry.
No, you haven't, and I
Thank
vote
you.
yes.
Thank you. Jacobs.
Yeah, first let me say, Tony, thanks for asking that question. That hadn't occurred to me to ask that question. I vote yes.
All right. Motion passes.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Nice to see both of you, Luke and Max, and good luck with the project. It's very ambitious, and I'm sure all of us will be looking forward to seeing how it comes together.
Thank you,
Thanks
everyone.
very much.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
And Megan, thank you for coming tonight and sharing your concerns. All right, now we move on to the agenda planning part of the agenda. Do we have any planning to do?
No.
Judy, do we have any future meetings already teed up?
No, Denise is the queen of the future meeting and she has nothing lined up. So
Yay.
Good. Everybody take the summer off. All right, hearing nothing further, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I second
Is there a
that.
second? Yeah, you,
I'll
Scott?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. Hey, thanks, everybody. Nice seeing all of you.
Thank you.
And, we'll be seeing each other again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you, everybody.